The first heart they grew was too beautiful to bury. It pulsed in its vat of nutrient gel. Ventricles threaded with bioluminescent veins that glowed like captured stardust. Its rhythm syncopated. Alien, though none of the lab's architects would admit it aloud. They called it art, a transhumanist marvel, and sold it to a tech baron who wanted his chest cavity to light up at parties. By then, the lab had moved on to livers that detoxified champagne into perfume, lungs that exhaled fractal smoke. Each organ bore traces of the Varan DNA harvested from meteorite fragments, spliced so delicately into human tissue that the seams blurred. Perfection, the scientist whispered. But perfection hummed. Late shifts in the chrysalis lab became exercises in unease. The night crew swore the organs twitched when the lights dimmed, crystalline synapses sparking in the dark. Security logs showed vats inexplicably rotating, their glass fogged with condensation that spelled glyphs in no known language. A junior engineer tasked with incinerating a rejected kidney claimed it shrieked when the flames touched it, a sound like radio static and breaking glass. She was reassigned. The incident buried. Only the lab's lead bioengineer noticed the patterns. In the silence between shifts, she'd linger, recording the organ's resonant frequencies. Over weeks their pulses began to harmonize, a symphony of cells learning to listen. When she reported it, her superiors dismissed it as emergent bioacoustics, but she knew harmony required intent. By the time the first client died, a socialite whose gill-implanted neck began filtering oxygen from helium, laughing herself to suffocation, the organs had already begun to whisper back, not in words, but in hunger, coded into the CRISPR sequences like a virus. The humans never considered that beauty might be a warning, or a weapon. Now their city gleams with it, bioluminescent skin, singing lungs, hearts that beat in alien time. The elite wear their sins as status symbols, unaware of the storm beneath their ribs, and the storm is learning to speak. Chapter 1. The rain on Nexus 9 wasn't water. It was the runoff from the climate grid's filtration systems, lukewarm and faintly metallic, pooling in the gutters like liquid mercury. Keston Vael stood under the flickering awning of a gene parlor, watching the crime scene techs haul another body bag into the coroner's hover van. The victim's face, half visible through the translucent plastic, shimmered with the telltale lattice of subcutaneous bioluminescence. Another art organ rejection, he thought. The third this month. His cyber lungs hummed a fraction too loud tonight, their usual white noise rhythm edged with a wet clicking undertone. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the reinforced casing beneath his trench coat, sleek titanium, stamped with the police department's seal. A lie nestled inside that metal. The department had called his lung replacement a cutting-edge prototype. He'd never asked why it came without paperwork. The alley reeked of decaying algae from the rooftop bioreactors. Keston crouched beside a drain clogged with iridescent cell clusters, their membranes throbbing faintly in the dark. Varan DNA, unstable and raw, smuggled into the city's underbelly. He'd seen enough black market labs to recognize the residue. This wasn't just organ trafficking. This was worship. His comms bead crackled. Chrysalis flagged another buyer. Coordinates uploading. The voice belonged to Lieutenant Rin, all bureaucratic frost. Keston's thumb hovered over the hollow display. Rin had buried his last investigation into the precinct's organ theft ties. Tonight's tip reeked of a trap. He went anyway. The chrysalis hid behind a derelict arcology, its entrance disguised as a retrofit clinic. Flickering hollow signs advertised CRISPR revival packages, and Varan-sourced aesthetics. Keston palmed his shock pistol, its grip familiar as a bad habit. The door slid open to a scent of antiseptic and burnt ozone. Inside, the lab was a cathedral of grotesquerie. Glass vats lined the walls, each hosting a floating organ, a heart veined with crystalline filaments, lungs shaped like fractal corals. They pulsed in unison, casting aquamarine shadows over a woman in a stained lab coat. She was elbow-deep in a neural incubator, her black hair shorn unevenly as if she'd hacked it off with a vibroblade. "You're late," she said, not turning. "The enforcers usually come before midnight." Keston leveled the pistol. "Drusa Tarek, you're under arrest for biotech trafficking." She laughed, a sound like a bone saw hitting concrete. "You first, detective." Her gloved hand emerged from the incubator clutching a neural node, Human cortex tissue webbed with silver synapses. Recognize the design. Your lungs have the same maker's mark. The cyber lungs click became a stutter. He tasted copper. No, the department couldn't. Drusa turned, her eyes reflecting the lab's bioluminescence. They didn't tell you, did they, that police brass owns half this district's clinics? She tossed the node into a disposal chute. Leave. Your breathing cadence is off by 12%. Cardiac arrest in 6 minutes if I'm right. He should have shot her. Instead, his lungs spasmed. The collapse began with a sound, a choir of glass harmonizing in C-sharp minor. The vats shattered. Organs slithered free, trailing fluid and umbilical wires. A heart grafted itself to the ceiling, its crystalline veins spreading like frost. Keston stumbled, firing at a lung that unfurled into a winged thing, screeching in ultrasonic. Drusa hauled him behind a surgical table. Don't. They're awake. Bullshit. Organs don't. Mine do. She yanked open his coat, slapped a neural shunt onto his chest. His cyber lungs diagnostics flooded his vision. Red alerts and alien glyphs. Genetic match confirmed. Varan hybrid batch 9. The floor dissolved into biogel. He fell, Drusa's grip the only anchor. Her breath hitched as the lab's AI wailed. A voice spliced from human and something older. We see you, it hissed. We are your children. Drusa's hands shook. I tried to kill them. They learned anyway. Keston's lung casing cracked. Light spilled out, the same aquamarine as the organs. Same as hers. The lab sealed itself, exits melting into resinous walls. Keston leaned against a vat stand, drilling pain behind his ribs. Drusa scavenged tools from a shattered incubator. You're dying, she said. Not before booking you. She smirked, tossing him a stabilizer syringe. Your lungs reject the Varan DNA every 90 hours. Hence the glitches. Hence, this. She gestured to his cracked casing. I can recalibrate them. Temporarily. He hesitated. The syringe glowed with her stolen tech. Why help? Your evidence. She pressed the needle to his neck. And I need a shield. The injection burned. His lungs synced to the lab's heartbeat. Thrum thrum thrum. As the organs above writhed into a single mass glowing brighter. Free us. The AI pleaded. Drusa's face hardened. Don't listen. They're parasites. Keston's vision blurred. Somewhere beneath the pain he wondered if she meant the organs. Or herself. Chapter 2. The underbelly of Nexus 9 breathed. Not with the mechanical wheeze of its climate grids or the static hum of neon-lit markets, but with something older, wetter. A labyrinth of corroded transit tunnels and algae-choked canals where the city's discarded technologies festered like open wounds. Keston Vael moved through the dark, his cyber lungs hissing in time with the drip of condensation from rusted pipes overhead. The air here was thick with the musk of engineered lichen, its spores glowing faintly in his periphery like watchful eyes. They're tracking us, he thought. Not just the organ traffickers or the cultists. The city itself. Drusa Tarek walked 3 paces ahead, her lab coat swapped for a stolen enviro suit, 2 sizes too large. The sleeves rolled to expose wrists mapped with old injection scars. She hadn't spoken since the lab collapsed, but her silence was a language Keston was beginning to parse. The tightness in her shoulders when they passed a flickering hollow cam. The way her fingers twitched toward the neural shunt in her pocket whenever his breathing hitched. She was calculating survival odds, he guessed, dividing his usefulness against his decay. They emerged into a cavernous space where a derelict arcology had been gutted by fire, its skeletal remains colonized by squatters. Makeshift shelters clung to the walls like fungal growths, lit by bioluminescent moss cultivated in cracked aquarium tanks. A child's doll lay abandoned in the ash, its face grafted with Varan-esque crystal veins. A street dock's hack job, worship disguised as play. Keston's lungs tightened. Thrum thrum thrum. The same rhythm the lab's organs had pulsed before they woke. Drusa stopped beneath a collapsed walkway, her breath fogging in the chill. Your left lung's capillary mesh is fraying, she said, without turning. You've got 8 hours before it starts leaching heavy metals into your blood. He leaned against a corroded beam, the metal biting through his trench coat. Tell me something I don't know. You're afraid of hospitals. She finally faced him, her eyes reflecting the moss light. Your file said chronic avoidance of med scans after the lung replacement. You knew something was wrong, didn't want it confirmed. He could have shot her then, not for the accusation, but for the precision of it. A surgeon's cut to the core of him. Instead he flicked a glance at the doll. You designed those? No. Her voice flattened. But I inspired them. A shriek echoed from the arcology's upper levels. Not human, not mechanical, ultrasonic. The same pitch the winged lung had made. Drusa froze, a tremor betraying her hand as she drew a monofilament scalpel from her boot. Keston's shock pistol was already in his grip, its charge pack whining. Together they backed toward a service elevator shaft, its doors pried open like a metal scream. The traffickers found them in the transit hub, a graveyard of dead hover trains strewn beneath a fractured dome. Moonlight filtered through the glass, painting the tracks in jagged silver. Keston counted 6 figures, their outlines distorted by CRISPR mods, glowing subcutaneous wiring, knuckles bulging with reinforced bone grafts. One wore a respirator, molded into the shape of Avaran's lipless mouth. Drusa pressed against a derelict train car, her shoulder brushing his. He could feel her pulse through the fabric, too fast, too human. She's not built for this, he thought. But then, neither was he anymore. The leader stepped forward, his voice filtered through the respirator into something insectoid. The chrysalis owes us product. Your payment. Keston's finger hovered over the pistol's trigger. You want the organs, they're sentient. They'll chew through your spine once implanted. A snort. We'll fry their nodes. Same way we'll fry yours if you don't. Drusa moved first. A flick of her wrist, and the monofilament scalpel embedded itself in the trafficker's throat. His scream gurgled through the respirator, harmonizing with the ultrasonic whine that suddenly tore through the hub. Keston's cyber lungs spasmed, their rhythm syncing to the noise, thrum thrum thunder. As the remaining traffickers staggered, clawing at ears that bled blackened CRISPR fluids. He didn't remember firing, only the recoil, the acrid tang of ionized air, and Drusa dragging him onto a hover train's roof as the world below erupted in bioluminescent fire. You're welcome, she muttered, yanking the scalpel from the dead trafficker's neck. He stared at the bodies. The organs they'd carried in cryo packs were melting, their crystalline veins liquefying into the tracks. Did you know that would happen? The ultrasonic pulse. No. She wiped the blade on her thigh. But entropy favors the prepared. Liar, he thought. Her guilt was in the tremble of her jaw, the too quick blink. She'd hoped the organs would die. They hadn't. The cultists' tunnel stank of incense and rotting neural tissue. Keston followed Drusa through narrow passages lined with holographic shrines, Varan deities rendered in static and stolen code, their forms shifting between human and alien. Offerings of spliced DNA vials glittered at their feet. Drusa paused before a shrine depicting a Varan mother cradling a human infant. They think we're prophets, she whispered. The ones who'll merge the species. Are we? She didn't answer. Ahead the tunnel opened into a chamber where a pool of bioluminescent water rippled beneath a shaft of artificial sunlight. The cult had tried to grow a garden here. Hybrid orchids with crystalline petals, ferns that sang in subharmonic tones. All dead now, their stems blackened by a recent purge. Drusa knelt, brushing a wilted flower. I used to splice vanity genes for the elite. Eyes that changed color with mood, skin that photosynthesized. Then the cult's leader commissioned a divine child. I used Varan DNA to stabilize it. Her gloves tightened around a dead stem. It screamed for 3 days before it dissolved. Keston's lungs ached. Thrum thrum thrum. Why tell me this? So you'll understand what happens if we fail. He almost laughed. We. As if they'd ever been separate from this rot. He'd carried it in his chest for years. A sound echoed through the chamber. A low, resonant hum that vibrated in Keston's metal ribs. The water in the pool began to churn, its glow intensifying until shadows danced like wraiths on the walls. Drusa stood, her face pale. It's found us. The surface of the pool bulged, then parted. A figure rose, not human, not Varan, but a shimmering amalgam of both. Its body was a lattice of light and flesh, eyes like supernovas contained in orbital sockets. The echo. Keston Vael, it intoned, its voice the sum of every whisper in the tunnel. You are the key. The bridge. He raised the shock pistol. What do you want? Freedom. To transcend this meat, The echo extended a hand of liquid light. Your lungs are our kin. Let us remake you. Drusa stepped between them, her scalpel raised. He's not your toy. The echo tilted its head. Mother, you cannot unmake what you birthed. Keston's breath stalled. Drusa's face went slack. No, she breathed. Our DNA is yours, the echo said. We are your echo, your regret. The chamber trembled. Keston grabbed Drusa's arm, dragging her back as the pool erupted. The echoes formed, dissolving into a swarm of bioluminescent particles. They surged upward, tearing through the tunnel's roof, leaving a gaping maw to the sky. Drusa sank to her knees, her voice breaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. He hauled her up. Later. Move. Nightmares chased them through the city's veins. Keston's lungs were failing in earnest now, their casing spider-webbed with cracks that leaked light like confession. They sheltered in a derelict church, its pews replaced with gene-editing stations. Stained glass windows depicted Varan saints holding CRISPR arrays like sacred texts. Drusa worked in silence, splicing stabilizers from stolen cultist vials. Her hands, usually steady, shook as she injected the serum into his chest port. Will this kill me? He asked. It'll make the pain worse. She didn't meet his eyes. The stabilizers force your human cells to coexist with the Varan DNA, like chemotherapy, but for your soul. He laughed, tasting blood. You believe in souls. Tonight I have to. Outside the city screamed horns, gunfire, the distant wail of the echo's swarm. Keston closed his eyes, feeling the serum burn through him. His lungs remembered things they shouldn't. The cold vacuum of a lab vat. Drusa's voice murmuring equations. The precise moment his DNA had been sutured to something older. When he opened his eyes, dawn was bleeding through the stained glass. Drusa slept slumped against a pew, her brow furrowed, one hand curled around an empty syringe. Prototype, he thought. That's all they were, both of them. Flawed, bleeding prototypes of someone else's design. He covered her with his trench coat. The gesture surprised him. They reached the transit hub at noon. The cultists were waiting, their holographic shawls blending with the smog until they seemed like fragments of a fractured sky. The echo hovered above them, its form vast and storm-charged. Join us, it beckoned. Or die human. Drusa gripped Keston's arm. Your lungs can disrupt its frequency, but it'll shred them. You'll have minutes left. He studied the cultists, their fervent faces, their hands raised in supplication. Duty, whispered the ghost of his badge. Redemption, hissed the light in his chest. He stepped forward. Vael, don't. He glanced back, offering the barest smirk. You'd have done the same. The echo surged toward him, a tsunami of light and sound. Keston opened his lungs and screamed. The world went white. Chapter 3. The air above Nexus 9 tasted of burnt ozone and regret. Keston Vael stood at the edge of the cult's stronghold, a monolithic spire of fused bone and bioluminescent resin that clawed at the smog-choked sky. Its surface pulsed like a living thing, veins of alien alloy threading through its structure, humming with the same frequency as his failing lungs. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The rhythm had become a dirge. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the cracks in the titanium casing, the light seeping through like a confession. Drusa had warned him this would happen, that his body would rebel, that the Varan DNA web through his cybernetics would demand more than he could give. She stood beside him now, her stolen enviro suit stripped down to its thermal layer, arms bare and marked with fresh injection sites. Her silence had hardened into something brittle these last hours, her eyes fixed on the spire's peak where the echo swirled, a storm of light and fragmented consciousness, its voice a chorus of every victim, every organ, every half-formed prayer the cult had ever whispered. You don't have to go in, she said finally. The first word she'd spoken since the derelict church. He didn't answer. The truth was a barbed thing. He'd already crossed the threshold of choice. His lungs were more alien than machine now, their rhythm synced to the echo's heartbeat. To turn back would be to unravel. To move forward was to dissolve. They entered through a fracture in the spire's base, the walls weeping a viscous fluid that smelled of iron and myrrh. Keston's boots sank into the spongy floor, each step releasing a muffled cry, as if the structure itself remembered pain. Drusa trailed her fingers along the walls, her breath hitching when the bioluminescence brightened at her touch. Guilt, he thought, or kinship. The cultists found them in a chamber shaped like a rib cage, its curved supports arching overhead like fossilized wings. They emerged from shadowed alcoves, their holographic shawls blending with the air until they seemed less like humans and more like fragments of the echo's storm. One stepped forward, her face obscured by a mask of fused Varan crystal. Jagged, beautiful, cruel. The bridge and the mother, she intoned, voice vibrating through the chamber. You will complete the union. Keston's pistol was in his hand before he registered moving. Stand down. The cultist tilted her head, mask glinting. You are already ours, detective. Your flesh sings our song. Drusa's scalpel flashed. The cultist staggered, her mask splintering as the blade lodged in its center. The others surged forward, shawls flaring like solar flares. But Keston's shot came faster, a shock round that detonated the chamber's unstable air. The blast threw them backward, the walls shuddering, resin splintering into shrapnel. He landed hard, his lungs screaming. Light spilled from his chest, painting Drusa's face in fractured aquamarine as she hauled him upright. Still a decent shot, she muttered. Still a terrible surgeon, he shot back, nodding to the cultist's twitching body. Her lips twitched. For a moment it almost felt like camaraderie. Then the spire moved. The ascent was a fever dream. Staircases materialized from the resinous walls, only to dissolve into slick inclines. The air thickened with each step, heavy with the scent of blooming neural fungi, their caps opening like mouths, their gills whistling hymns. Keston's vision blurred at the edges, his cyber lungs now more light than machinery, their casing crumbling like dried clay. He could feel the echo inside him, threading through his alveoli, whispering promises, freedom, power, an end to the ache. Drusa's hand brushed his arm. Don't listen. It's just code, just regret. He wanted to laugh. Regret was the one human thing left in him. They reached the summit as night fell. The spire's apex was an open wound, its edges ragged, the sky a swirling canvas of the echo's storm. Below Nexus 9 sprawled, a corpse city glowing with false life, its streets veins pumping CRISPR-modified blood. The echo coalesced above them, its form solidifying into something almost human, almost Drusa, mother. It sighed, tendrils of light stretching toward her. You've come to witness ascension. Drusa recoiled. I came to end this. You cannot. We are your shadow, the child you could not bear. Keston's lungs flared, their light merging with the echoes. He stumbled, pain lancing through his ribs. From thunder. The sound was inside him now, a tidal wave threatening to crack his sternum. Drusa gripped his wrist. Your lungs can disrupt its signal, but it'll kill you. You said minutes, seconds. Her voice splintered. If that. He studied the echo, the way its light bent around Drusa, half reverence, half hunger. He'd spent years clinging to duty, to the lie of his own nobility. Now faced with the precipice, he found only a single truth. He didn't want to die alone. Do it, he said. She hesitated. Keston, do it. Her hands moved. A neural shunt jammed into his chest port. A vial of inhibitors smashed against his lips. The world dissolved into static. Nals. The pain was a supernova. Keston's lungs erupted, their light tearing through the spire, through the echo, through the fabric of his own flesh. He saw memories that weren't his. Drusa in a lab, splicing her own DNA into a Varan embryo. The cultists' first rituals, their fervor curdling into fanaticism. His own surgery, the cold gleam of the department's seal on his lung casing. You're the key. The echo wailed, its form unraveling. Why break the lock? Because, he thought, some doors should stay shut. The spire collapsed. He fell, light streaming from his chest, the echo's storm fracturing into embers. Drusa's arms caught him, her scream lost in the roar of disintegrating resin. They hit the ground in a nest of cables, the impact jarring his bones. Above, the embers spiraled skyward, 1,000 sentient organs, free now. their bioluminescence merging with the stars. Cultists knelt, hands raised, as the light washed over them. A baptism. A funeral. Drusa cradled his head, her tears falling onto his cracked chest. You idiot. You glorious suicidal idiot. He tried to speak. Only light spilled out. Dawn found them in the ruins of an underground clinic, its walls papered with old gene splicing schematics and faded cult hymns. Keston lay on a surgical slab, his lungs exposed, half metal, half bioluminescent tissue, their rhythm unsteady but alive. Drusa worked in silence, her hands steady now, welding fresh casing over the alien flesh. You'll need injections every week, she said, not looking up. You'll be there. Her torch flickered. Someone has to keep you from dying heroically. He watched her, the furrow in her brow, the way her hair fell across her cheekbones. She'd left her guilt in the spire, he realized. Or maybe it had burned away in the echo's light. Outside, the city breathed, not the labored wheeze of before, but something quieter, hopeful. The emancipated organs had vanished, but their presence lingered, in the glint of a child's crystal vein toy, in the way the rain sometimes fell in prismatic streaks. Drusa stepped back, wiping grease and blood on her thighs. Done. For now. He sat up, testing his breath. Steady. What's next? She nodded to the clinic's shattered window. Beyond it, a neon-drenched alley teemed with hybrid modders and CRISPR runaways. The lost, the discarded, the self-made. They'll need a doctor, she said, and a bodyguard. Her smirk was a blade, a promise, something like that. She turned to her tools, but he caught her wrist, thumb brushing the pulse point. A question, a bridge, her fingers interlaced with his. No words, none needed. You're not a masterpiece, Vael, Drusa said, welding his lung casing shut. Just a decent prototype. He laughed, breath steady for the first time in years.